Go back to side hustles. Are you good to go?
Yep.
So the advice regarding...
Hi there everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Becca. I am a professional ballerina and content creator. Now this morning I am recording a podcast interview with an old friend of mine, Rupert Wiltshire, who is the founder of Science in Dance. He is a sports scientist focused on the health and well-being, physical and otherwise, of dancers and other high-performing athletes. So I hope this is going to be really interesting for you. I've got a few different questions lined up from him. He's the one interviewing me, so let's get into it and see what we chat about.
Well, welcome back, Becca. Thanks for joining me again. This is round 2 for you. It's been over 3 years since Becca and I last chatted, and that's still available on YouTube. But it wasn't officially done as a podcast. It was kind of just, back then, two friends meeting up and chat. Yeah, chit chat. Exactly. You're right. And but that conversation resonates now, just as important as it was back then in terms of where it's led you to be. So, welcome. Hope you glad to be back on with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, so just for a bit of brief background for people that are perhaps tuning into the podcast that definitely didn't tune in last time because of the outreach of the channel back then. Tell us who you are, tell us where you're from, and tell us what you do.
Great. Well, as Rupert said, my name is Becca. I'm originally from South Wales. I started ballet at 2 years old. From 3, I started ballroom Latin, and from 5, I joined in with jazz, tap, and modern. And I continued all that, adding in flamenco and Spanish and Irish dance in my vocational training. I went into vocational training at 14. And I then graduated with a diploma from KS Dance when I was 18. KS Dance, look at that.
I know, on purpose.
Yeah. And I'm sure we'll get onto my audition journeys. It took me a while to get a job. My first contract was then with the Romanian National Ballet, and I was there for nearly 4 years, about 3.5. I then resigned and landed a job. I say landed, I earned a job here in Germany at the Semperoper Ballett in Dresden. So that's my career so far.
And is it safe to now, I don't know, since the launch of your latest project, which we're definitely going to talk about, should we call you the audition educator? I feel like that's quite an accolade. So I'm going to roll with that.
Quite an apt title.
Yeah, I think that's so appropriate given what we're going to discuss this morning.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't want to make it too coronavirus COVID centric, but I do want to make it. The point of this next series, and you're the first episode on it, is to discuss wider things outside dance science and dance health. That's really not what this discussion's about. I want to try and bring on people who I think have a new perspective on aspects of the dance industry. And I think that what you've delivered over the past few months, having seen it firsthand and having discussed it with me, I think it's really important to share because entrepreneurial skills are one thing. The ability to market oneself is another thing, as the product itself, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
so, you with dancing, you are your own product. So tell me, based upon your experiences and things that we perhaps discussed last time, like your audition journey and your audition experience, when did the idea first hit you to set up Audition Educator, and what is Audition Educator?
So, the idea that there should be something like this happened way back, coming out of school or more so in my second round of auditions, so I call it the mid-20 move. So auditioning as a professional. I need to get that patented. So that's when the idea was arising that there should be help, and kind of wished there was. But the light bulb moment of physically doing it was, just came honestly during the summer. I was on holiday and obviously a bit relaxed, and that's when the inspiration struck me. And I got to it right away, and I know a lot about auditioning. I have extensive audition experience, and I have made every mistake that anyone could ever make, within all that entails. And so it was August that I started developing the audition educator and what that would be. So effectively, right now it's an educational tool for dancers to help them with their auditions in the classical space, because in every other industry there are agents, and I'm not just talking dance industries, like globally, any industry, you have headhunters, you have agents, all these things. We have nothing. So it's an educational tool currently, and will be the first agency in the classical space. And so I did a ton of market research. I knew already that there was nothing available for us other than the odd article online or in one of the dance magazines every couple of years, as January rolls around. But very, fluffy general advice, or perhaps not relevant anymore if it was quite a while back. As we know, our industry has changed this year. And so I did a lot of market research. I did a lot of polling and questioning dancers on their major pain points. 86% said that they did not have enough guidance with auditioning. The main pain points were they didn't know how to write a CV or put their application together. They didn't have any contacts. They wouldn't contact a professional just for advice if they didn't already know them and things like that. Those were the main ones. So I started with those, and I created 3 ebooks around the application process. So there's the CV crash course, there's portfolio photos zoomed in, and audition videos explained. They do come as a bundle as well. Because most people feel they need all of them. Obviously this year my video one is the bestseller, with all the virtual auditions popping up. And targeting the contacts issue, I created the expert email list, which is a database of over 70 classical company or director emails. So I compiled everything I'd ever found on the internet, any email address that I'd, ever found to email a company. I put all those in a database. Those are available. But the main event is the Audition Educator course. And so this is a 6-week currently live course where I talk through everything, starting at your research, your application, how to write an email, how to cold email a company, and then I go through to the travel aspects, covering virtual auditions for this year. I then go into keeping costs low. I go into all the aspects, comparing a company class with an audition class, talking through physical audition days, what will it entail, what do you need to be prepped for, all the way through to contracts. So I have covered everything, and I'm on my 3rd run of it now, and even now I'm as I'm learning or as more questions are coming up, I'm just developing the course, putting more in and putting more in. I've just added a bonus module on video CVs, because yes, that's a thing now, and how to film your video CV. So that's a bonus model that's been added this time. It will continue to
so
grow like
just
that.
just to touch on a video CV for those that might not know what that is.
Yeah.
I'm going to I don't know necessarily what that is. I'm going to guess that is basically your CV, but you've recorded yourself talking about it, or
yeah. So the main
describing
things,
it.
The main things companies seem to be asking for it if they are predominantly doing a virtual screening for to actually offer a job. And so the idea is to get some personality across, and so that they can see you as a person, because for a lot of directors,
that makes sense though.
Absolutely.
From a business point of view, from getting the right personnel, I understand for young dancers that are just leaving college, that would be a daunting task if they've not videoed speaking or singing or acting before. Talking about it, or
So the main
describing
things,
it.
The main things companies seem to be asking for it if they are predominantly doing a virtual screening for to actually offer a job. And so the idea is to get some personality across, and so that they can see you as a person, because for a lot of directors,
that makes sense though.
Absolutely.
From a business point of view, from getting the right personnel, I understand for young dancers that are just leaving college, that would be a daunting task if they've not videoed speaking or singing or acting before. What are you noticing that is kind of the common trend with people when dancers have to perhaps talk about themselves, or is there dance job or ballet related interview techniques? Like, is there something within the video CV aspect of things that you think dancers are struggling with, or is it they've just got to simply have the confidence to talk about themselves?
It's a confidence thing, mostly it's nerves, or, it gets like a script or something like that. It's very hard to get them to relax a little bit. But, I'm a classical dancer and in a classical company, and I have had to speak on stage, I've had to sing on stage. That is a thing. So, this is just a taste. And so just getting them to relax, not read off a script, don't read directly off their CV. That's not what they want to see. They want to see, eye to camera contact, and tell them. So it's a good way of thinking of it is your cover letter, or, the stuff you've prepped for your CV to talk a little bit about yourself and why you want to audition. It's the cover letter vibe you're going for. So it's a bit more personable, a bit more fluffy, and it's not like a bullet point structured script like your CV. So you want to combine those two.
So it's definitely not one type of thing that you could send to multiple places. Realistically, that sort of thing is tailored to why you want to audition for that specific company, rather than just recording yourself talking about your CV and sending it to multiple places. Or does that work as well? Or is this really specific that people are asking for?
Well, what I'm advising, unless the company has specifically asked them to talk about, where they're auditioning, what I'm advising them, because they're very rare right now, if you've got the time to do it for a specific company, then great. And then, as we develop forward, I think there's ways of making it personal without specifically, talking about a specific company and name dropping that company, and meaning you have to film it every time. Now that goes against everything I say for the rest of the application process. So don't anyone take that as I can batch email, there's none of that in my books. However, in this instance, because it's so rare, and I think you can make it personal without actually name dropping and then having to film. Dancers have enough to do. Every company's asking for a different length video with different content. They've got to edit every time anyway. So if this is one thing that you can tailor down but still make personal, that's what I recommend. However, not with the rest of your application.
Okay, that's really good advice. So realistically, we're looking at a template and a process each time that the dancer needs to go through when they see an audition, and they need to kind of reverse engineer the process whereby they've seen what they've got to send off. And then it's a case of coming back to your course or coming back to your ebooks and going, okay, they're asking for that. not that. That's okay. I can leave that to one side for now. And really going through this process repeatedly and actually honing it and dialing it in for themselves at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I guess every person's audition experience is slightly different, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But generally there's a million different audition experiences, but there are the exceptions and then there are the rules. And most of us are the rules, not the exception to the rule. So most of us, I'm going to say 95%, have to do all this grind work. We don't just have a contact or necessarily, and I'm not going to mention the word lucky because I don't really believe in, someone being lucky to get a job. They've earned it in some way, shape or form. But exceptions and rules, I'm a rule for sure.
On this topic, and I'm going to go back a little bit in a second and ask you about the previous 3 years a little bit. What do you think is the biggest barrier currently to a new graduate or somebody in their first, second, third year of college, let's say, that is waiting in anticipation for the audition process? Obviously, we take out the fact that things are going virtual right now, and let's say hopefully in a year's time things are very different and we're back on that audition scene and blah blah blah. I always get the impression there's an element of anticipation and a feeling across their 3 years of training they've got to be ready like straight away. Yeah. How much is there to learn between your first audition and your, the last audition before you get a job, or the job where you get an audition?
It
is. Think that's that process of
one steep learning curve. If you know skiing, it's a black run. Like, it's as steep as it gets. And I think, like you say, with the anticipation, the problem is lack of knowledge. And with the anticipation, they go all guns blazing and they start making all these mistakes and they're turning companies off just by basic things. It's not even your work. It's not even what you've trained for. It's your job hunting skills and your application skills and things like that. There's a lot of basics that can be avoided. And so I think, overexcitement and lack of knowledge combined. And
so my part B is a bit of a yes or no question. And that's awful for a podcast, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Are there situations where dancers could go to their first or second audition and actually not have those first time audition experiences, or at least be a lot more successful in the whole process from email to being in person? And they don't have to make these mistakes, do they?
No.
I'm trying to say.
They don't have to, but none of us. There's no professional passing on this information, and in some cases, the schools, like KS, are doing as much as they can to help that process. Some schools are not doing enough. However, you do need someone who's done it recently, or someone who's in that arena right now. Listening to the other company dancers, you always hear, when you're in a company, you hear from any other company who's leaving, how many contracts are on the just through the grapevine. There's a lot of information that we get, and not only that, we've already done it. We've already got a job, we've done that process, and so I think us to be passing on our information is really, really important, and it's something that dancers as creative beings are very uncreative with what they can offer the next generation of dancers.
I think that's certainly something that has to be explored, is whereby the process and the deal is constantly changing amongst auditioning and the process of auditioning. It's important to be in touch, and the rules from 15, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, that's, I think, probably less than that. Don't apply now.
No. When I did my first round of auditions, all people wanted was experience. You don't have experience, that wasn't my only issue, but that was something I heard a lot. They There weren't junior companies, there weren't apprenticeships, there wasn't any of this. They wanted experience and I had none. And then you fast forward 4 years doing my mid-20 move, or they'd tapped into the fact that they can hire younger dancers, pay them a bit less, and have these apprenticeship programs, junior companies. So by the time I got to my mid-20 move and I had a packed CV, all they wanted was students, graduates. Oh, we don't need anyone with experience. We don't need anyone with experience. I couldn't have won. So, even just in those short space of times and those times I've done it, bearing in mind each time I did it was a 2-year period. I'm not talking a couple of months or one audition season. I'm talking 2 years each time. And being in tune with what the industry is looking for generally, not even getting into the nitty-gritty of you as a dancer, what height you are, what kind of dancer you are. So, yeah.
And the other, I guess, on a line of positivity, you're setting up, or you have set up the Audition Educator amongst a pandemic. But is it fair to say people are still auditioning? Like there are still pockets of the world that want dancers. Is that are you experiencing people coming to you for advice because they've got a lot online auditions? Is what kind of thing are companies asking for right now, given what's going on? I know you mentioned the virtual CV, but are they asking people to get variations together and show reels together amongst when they've got to film it in their kitchen? Is that what's happening?
Yeah. As we hit the summer, there were actual in-person auditions happening and people were hiring. I know firsthand that people were hiring. And as we've come into the new phase and, especially most of Europe is, reverted again, they're asking for their full applications, full audition videos, full variations and things like that. I guess expecting that people just had it filmed before, which obviously I'm advising they do, but if they don't, they're in a sticky situation right now. And then I guess they would expect that by the time it got to the virtual audition, the Zoom audition, companies have to be expecting that people are going to be in their kitchens.
Is that a piece of a little bit of a hidden gem there of advice, which is that if you get the opportunity to film things, whether you've got an audition coming up or not, and even if you're a professional that may be moving companies after 3-4 years, no matter what, you should be probably filming some content or making sure you've got that video content fairly regularly updated.
Yeah, absolutely. Regularly updated is a key point there. I mean, I believe heavily in filming things anyway. If nothing else, it's good for seeing self-progression and, self-correction. But keeping it updated is really key. People don't want to see things older than 6 months now. So if you have access to a studio, you want to be using that, absolutely.
Even if there's nothing online and nothing in the paper, so to speak, using inverted commas there, pertaining to what you want. So that I'm going to kind of backtrack, Becca, and go back to the last 3 years. And I know that you've had a very enjoyable time in Germany. You love it there, and despite what people normally think of ballet as being quite a volatile career. I know that's not the case in all companies. Mm. However, you seem to have always had a side hustle, and always been interested in life outside of dance and life outside of ballet, or even if it's related to ballet, it's from a different angle. Yeah. So I was wondering if you could perhaps tell viewers, listeners, about this isn't the first venture that you've had in a business capacity, is it?
No, it's not. I like you say, I've always had a side hustle. Even when I was younger, I used to hand paint cards and sell them at my ballet studio. £2.50.
Absolutely love that. So that's great. The advice regarding people, I think there's obviously dancers and the dancers at college, especially now, they've got an idea, or they know enough about what happens when dancers are graduated and they're trying to audition, but perhaps the jobs aren't available to just go and do like waitressing right now. So if you have an interest, and it may be ballet skirts, or it may be something